Yep, born and raised right here in this house. The house my granddaddy built. Never saw no reason to leave. Why would I? Ain't no place to go but the big city. And there ain't nothing there I need. Got everything that a feller could need or want right here in this here holler. And the hills around it. Worked the mines my whole life, till they shut 'em down. That's been almost 20 years ago now. Been living off the land since then, and the little stipend I get from the government from my years in the army. Which ain't much, I can tell you that right now. Give 'em everything you got for 4 years and they give you nothing back but pain and bad memories. Never trust them revenuers, boy. Jedediah? Yep, he lived across the road from me there for pert near 50 years. Born there as well. His daddy built that house. But old Jedediah, he didn't work in the mines. He worked timber. Felling trees for the timber company. Mean he was. Couldn't hardly talk to the man some days. Had a bad streak running through him. Must have got it from his uncle. That fella died up in the prison, must be going on 20 years ago now. But he changed. Jedediah did. A preacher fella came through one day. Truck broke down right there in front of the house. Overheated. Could tell from all the steam a-coming out of it. I went down to the road there and started up a conversation with him. But when I found out he was one of them preacher fellas, I told him to find his own water or start walking. And I went back up here to my porch. Ain't nothing worse than some fella trying to tell you you're a dadgum sinner. But that's when Jedediah came out of his house. Thought for sure he was gonna wallop the fella something fierce. Had a little too much of the shine in him that day. Old Jed used to love the liquor. But that preacher man stood his ground. Never seen nothing like it before. Toe to toe he stood with him, he did. Acted like Jedediah was nothing more than a pesky little kid looking for a chocolate bar. And upset 'cause he wasn't gonna get one. But then, the next thing you know, old Jedediah's coming back from the pond back there with a bucket of water for that fella's radiator. They must have sat on the porch talking for hours. Long enough for the sun to go down. I reckon I know what they were talking about too. 'Cause the next day, old Jedediah was sitting out there on his front step a-poring over a Bible. Shoot, I didn't even know that he could read. Things changed after that. When he wasn't in a mood to start a fight, we used to go out hunting and fishing together. Sometimes even went back up in the hills there where I keep my still. And I mean to tell you, we would drink till we couldn't drink no more. But then he just stopped all that. Well, he'd still fish and hunt, of course, when he needed some food. But the drinking became like a curse to him. Never saw a fella turn from the jug so fast. Didn't bother me that much. We never was what you might call good friends anyway. But then he started to talk about that there Bible he had. Started trying to get me to believe in Jesus so I wouldn't go to hell, he said. And I was polite for a while, mostly just for the sake of his daddy. He wasn't such a bad fella when he was around. And you gotta remember, old Jedediah was a pretty big fella. Imposing is the word the big city folks use. So you sure didn't want to get on his bad side. But one day I finally got sick and tired of it. It's all he'd talk about. Had the stupidest smile on his face most of the time that you'd ever seen. I told him to keep his Jesus on that side of the road, and if he didn't, well, then there was no reason for us to be talking anymore. He'd walk 5 miles to church one way every Sunday morning, rain or shine, and every once in a while that preacher would stop by just to see how he was doing. One time when that preacher fellow was here, the two of them came over here one day and tried to talk to me about God and such, about how I needed to get my soul right with God and get saved. I'm telling you now, I made it real clear if they came on my property just one more time, I'd be sending them to see their Jesus right soon. I'd see Jedediah sitting on his step reading that Bible every day without fail. The lamp in his house was on till midnight sometimes. I reckon so he could keep reading it when it got dark. Tell you the truth, I stopped paying any real attention to him and his doings about 4 or 5 years ago. Couldn't care less about him. Then one day I started to notice a whole lot of cars and trucks showing up out there on the road, lined up for quite a ways. They hauled him out of the house all wrapped up in a sheet and put him in the back of one of those pickups. Must have died sometime during the night on a Saturday. And when he didn't show up for their church service, well, I guess they must have got curious. Some of them was a-crying to beat the band, but a few were singing those church songs. Strangest thing I ever saw. One of them fellas came over and asked me if I wanted to come to his funeral in a couple of days. And I told him straight up that his Jesus didn't mean nothing to me. And if he didn't get off my property, he'd be the next one they put in the bed of that pickup truck.
Well, I certainly do appreciate your time, sir. I just want you to know something. I'm the son of that preacher that stopped here all those years ago. And I'm a preacher man myself, just up the road a piece over in Granite City. And I want you to know just a couple of things, if you'll allow me a minute or two. Old Jedediah there is in heaven right now, and you can be there also, if you'll just listen to me for a moment. If not, well, that's your choice, sir. But I want you to know that if you don't call on the Lord Jesus Christ for the salvation of your soul, you'll feel the fires of hell for all eternity.
You ain't telling me nothing I don't already know, boy. I wouldn't expect to feel those fires anyplace else. Now, I tell you what, young fella, you got your story. I don't care what reason it was that you decided to stop here and chew the fat with me, but I'm gonna tell you this right now. You'd best be getting back in that car you came in and keep heading down the road there, and let me get back to my own business. Well, sure as the sun's gonna shine in the morning, I'll be sending you to the same place you say old Jedediah is, right quick. Now get, boy, and don't come back this way again. I'm gonna tell you folks something right now. I believe in your Jesus. Oh, not the way you're thinking. Not in that saving of my soul and all that nonsense. I believe, all right, that he was a fella that lived a long time ago. But he ain't God. There ain't no way that he could be. If and he was, he wouldn't have let those fellas step all over him. There ain't no way he would have let 'em nail him to no cross. He was just a regular fella, and a mighty weak one at that. 'Cause if and he was God, there ain't no way he would have let any of that happen to him. There. I've said my piece. Now go on about your business and let me get on with mine.